is a video called Lies, Deception, and ProJared, the story of ProJared. I'm very intrigued to check this thing out. This is by June King. I encourage everybody to go watch this full video. I'm going to be talking about the first 20 minutes or so because I was interviewed for this, and I'll be reacting alongside it. So let's check it out, shall we? All right, here we go.
ProJared was a channel that, like many of his contemporaries, should have slowly faded out of the algorithm, a path that he was well on his way on. From working at ScrewAttack to going independent, doing game reviews, his channel had already peaked. But for a few days in May of 2019, his name was plastered throughout the internet with news of him reaching millions of views and infecting the dialogue of content creators both small and monolithic. There was an interest in him like never before. For any person working in content creation, this was a dream, but the context was a nightmare.
I think I've been asked about this so many times, and honestly, I don't know the whole story behind it. I don't really care to know the whole story about it, but I gave my input on his time with ScrewAttack. You know, what people do in their personal life, if they're shitheads, look, they're shitheads. And, you know, it's just one of those things where, where good things happen to good people.
Rapid fire, there were various accusations coming from his wife accusing him of adultery, other sources accusing him of soliciting photos to underage fans, and even the intensity of coverage on him and the ever-changing situation was a point of interest. Posts attacking Jared's intrinsic features became common, as all were witnessing
Oh no, oh no, I'm not gonna lie, sorry.
These attacks on him flow in at the same rate of him gripping a very demonetizable body part in various positions. This endless scroll of commentary left by those that felt justified in tearing him down came into question when Jared, several months after the controversy, released a video that rewrote it all.
Some individuals circulated serious accusations. They are false.
Which is why it's a story that must be covered in the rise and fall of ProJared.
Ooh, and we're gonna get an ad, so we're gonna go to me. This will be interesting. This will be interesting for sure. I am intrigued to see where this goes. Now, all I know is what I know, and what I know is what I gave them in this interview. So we'll see where this goes. Very intrigued.
Has a quality that is unrivaled by virtually any other content creator starting content, where it is common for such a video to flop as the content creator learns how to optimize themselves and the content to make something that is easier to watch. That's because while it is the first visible video on his channel, it was not the first video he ever uploaded. It was a culmination of previous successes and experiences that brought on the skills needed to make his channel a success.
I would just like to point out, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but the name ProJared came from ScrewAttack. I'm sure you knew that, probably. And who do you think gave it to him?
Like his experience in high school in the early 2000s, where he picked up novice editing skills, or his gravitation towards improv and theater that drew him in front of the camera. Experiences like these translated well into his mid-20s working as a manager at GameStop in the mid-2000s.
I'm just going to say something that's probably going to piss off some people, but theater kids are fucking weird, man. Like, like it's just one of those things, man. Theater kids, if you're a theater kid, you're probably were thought of as being really weird. Now you have your little clique, and I get it, but that's just how it is.
This inspired him and a couple of friends to create the short-lived web series known as Name Tags. Popular around this time was the show Scrubs, a sort of medical comedy drama following the lives of medical interns turned doctors. This was a clear inspiration for this show, with Jared taking the role of lead actor. He played the role of Jared, the employee of a game store. As typical for this era of content creation and for a larger scale project involving multiple friends playing the many roles in an experimental game show, this, with some popularity, served more for the crew to gain experience in online content creation in a time where gamer culture was more niche, with other media like the webcomic Control-Alt-Delete taking hold and still has some relevance with the infamous Lost sequence.
Love me some Control-Delete. Or at least I say I loved me. I just I know of some Control Alt Delete. I remember them. Yeah.
Like this comic, many of these sub 10-minute long name tag episodes aged just as gracefully, and were inoffensive products of their time.
Princess Zelda, Mai Shinrai of King of Fighters, and Sung Mina of Soul Calibur.
Very nice. 3 game chicks you would not have sex with.
Melina from Mortal Kombat, any of the Draenei chicks from World of Warcraft, and Chun-Li.
Really? Not Chun-Li?
Oh yeah. You see, as amazingly hot as Chun-Li is, her massive, powerful thighs would crush any man like a vice. Come on, Chun-Li. Is that all you got? Hadouken! It'd be the worst pain ever. Or the best.
As for hosting
So with that said, can you not do was it a stupid joke? Yeah. Like, was it corny? Yeah. But is that something you can't say on the internet now? You can't say those things on the. Shut up! Like, are you kidding me? Oh my god! Like, if you're upset, like, just a quick news flash. If you're upset about that, and I mean, I realize once again, not the greatest joke in the world, whatever. But if you're upset about that, you got to reevaluate yourself. Like, legitimate, please reevaluate your stance on all things in life, everything.
these videos, this is where the website and company Screw Attack comes into play. Its own story is quite an interesting one. Screw Attack was a website that launched in 2006.
Well, I'm intrigued to hear what he says here.
Hosting the audio-only video game podcast, Side Scrollers. But it was expanding and sending various cold emails out, hoping to work with other websites. That's when they got the opportunity to produce a new style of content within a very short amount of time. What they came up with was a top 10 gaming-themed video that was uploaded to GameVideos.com, and it went viral to where it garnered the attention of the Game Trailers website that
So far, pretty accurate. Obviously, details left out, but that's pretty accurate.
turned into a long-lasting partnership producing top 10s and other video game-related content. Beyond producing their own content, Screw Attack was taking on partners like the Angry Nintendo Nerd, known now as the Angry Video Game Nerd, Larry Bundy Jr., and the Nostalgia Critic.
Did not take on Nostalgia Critic. Did not. At least not as a partner. Maybe he uploaded some stuff at some time, but never took on Nostalgia Critic as a partner.
But it being in the earlier days of online content creation, no one was making money. Until
yes, true.
that partnership with Game Trailers.
Yes.
But still, Screw Attack did not make any money from content creators like the Angry Video Game Nerd, as the pseudo deal that was worked out was that Screw Attack would benefit from him via promotion, and of course, to keep uploading something original every day. A feat that is normal by today's standards, but quite difficult and commendable back then.
I'd like to point out that that statement is heavily loaded with hindsight. Like, that statement where Screw Attack would benefit from having the Angry Nintendo Nerd upload. The original idea was that we would both benefit from each other. Now, did we know the Angry Nintendo Nerd and Angry Video Game Nerd would become one of the biggest icons in the history of online gaming space? No. But the idea was that we would mutually benefit, and it wasn't like, well, we're going to benefit from you, Angry Nintendo Nerd. It was nothing like that.
Even with all this attention, earning enough money for Screw Attack was a big problem that persisted for quite some time. To fill me in on the details, I was able to interview co-founder Stuttering Craig, who shined a light to the difficulties of running the company.
YouTube was not a place that was you could make money. It was more used as like a
It's me.
billboard for Screw Attack. So yeah, it was such a different time, and Screw Attack. We very rarely made money on an annual basis because none of us made any money every year. Like, I made $35,000 the first 10 years of Screw Attack. Like, I made nothing, and so, and I'm the head of the company, right? So pretty much all the money that was coming in was going to pay everybody.
YouTube, especially in around 2008, the time name tags was being uploaded to Screw
Everything that one guy said was true.
Attack was not at all a place to earn revenue, and more so a website to be used for promotion. As Craig tells it, revenue streams come from other popular websites. With Screw Attack establishing their presence, it established other gaming-related shows like Top 10s relating to gaming content, and Gaming Evolved that were videos covering older titles of varying popularity. When venturing into this new and unknown style of content creation, experimentation with different shows was as necessary as it was expected for companies like Screw Attack to grow.
Ah! Ad at the worst time. Ridiculous. Quick question asked in the chat. Was that, CDI says, was that $35K a year? Yes. Yes, of course it was. Of course it was $35K. 35K what, a month? No, that was $35K a year, dude. Screw Attack was absolutely a labor of love, 100%. When people talk about the idea that, Screw Attack was this money hungry, are you kidding me? There was no money hungry about it because nobody made money at Screw Attack. Nobody did. That was the most fascinating thing about it, where people, every cent that was put into the people at Screw Attack, hiring more people, and once again, nobody was making money, which goes back to the idea of why selling the company made sense, so people could actually be rewarded for their hard work. Everybody who worked for me that was at Screw Attack at the time of the acquisition received 10,000 shares of stock in full screen. All right, and that gets sold for a pretty good chunk of change. That's $10,000 worth of shares. And then that got turned around for a pretty good chunk of change later down the line. A big multiple. So they all did pretty damn well with full-time jobs, with everything. So it made total sense. And anyways, sorry, just going off on the side. That was the first thing that came to mind. But yeah, there's no money to be made at all.
Expanded beyond that. Through an admittedly impulsive decision, Screw Attack opened a game store under the name of Game Attack. Mimicking the theme of Screw Attack, it was a game store stocked with retro games and accessories. Like its products, the store was outdated in the sense that gaming transactions were happening in large scale digitally, a trend that usually turns investors away from erecting physical game stores.
I'll be very interested to hear if he included any of the interview in this part, because I talked about this, and I specifically have talked about Game Attack as a whole, or at least at the time, the buying of the video game store, which would become Game Attack. It was Game Exchange when we purchased it. Speaking, that wasn't an impulsive buy, as he said. It was an emotional buy. It was not something that I was like, well, I want to buy that store. It was, I would really love to own a video game store. How can we make this happen? It wasn't like, oh, we'll just go out and buy it. It wasn't like that. It was not impulsive. It was emotional, and there's a big difference between the two.
As unfavorable towards the market as this decision was, it played a role in getting Jared officially on the Screw Attack payroll. With Jared's existing ties with Screw Attack and his experience in managing a game store, it was a perfect fit, and where he could both manage the store and produce content as an official employee under Screw Attack.
By the way, he's taken a lot of this from the interview. This is pretty much word for word.
This partnership furthered his experience in all departments of content creation. Another important aspect is that with his increased in front of camera presence from the late 2000s to the early 2010s, he was building a small viewer base and establishing important relationships with other retro gaming content creators like Peanut Butter Gamer that collaborated with Jared regularly. A common trope among retro reviewers that is often poked fun at is that their videos will lean towards covering universally hated games, wherein the creators will really dramatize the effect the poorly received game had on them. Some creators will openly seek out the most infamous games that will always provide a torturous experience. Others get their passion from discovering these titles and develop history and therefore a story with games that sour their views on that game or its entire franchise.
What's interesting about that is there's a lot of truth in that statement, and that there's kind of a formula for the angry retro gamer, right? But if you look back at Screw Attack content, I would like to think that the vast majority of it, at least maybe not the vast majority, but the majority of it was positive. It was built about why a game was good. Like that was the whole idea of the video game vault as a whole. Now, I mentioned this many times before, but negative content traditionally does better than positive content, right? Top 10 worst this game sucked, whatever. And that's why a lot of people lean towards it. This is the internet after all. Negativity lives and breathes on the internet.
Such was the case with Jared and the fantasy action role-playing game Two Worlds that was released on the Xbox 360. This was marketed as a competitor to the Elder Scrolls series. To that, it promised much, but delivered very little. Its poor quality is something any player could pick up on very quickly, but few could develop such a hatred for it as Jared. Even in his series name tags, the game is regularly referenced for how terribly designed it is.
Waiting all year for this. Saving my vacation just for you.
Right. Well, since both of you are here, I want to show you something. We need to boost sales, so push a game that you have a ton of copies of. Like this.
We have a lot of copies of that because the game sucks.
Not necessarily. It's all in how you sell it.
I actually remember this character. I really like this guy. Hey, this is where the Grammar thing came from. You know, the sports gamer guy. Oh, hilarious.
Hey!
Hey, Chad.
Hey!
What can I do for you today, sir?
I need a new game until Lego Halo comes out.
That's not a real game. It was an April Fool's joke.
No way! I saw pictures of it on the internet.
Oh, you like Halo, huh? Have you played this?
Look at how overlit this is. It's amazing.
What is that?
It's called Two Worlds. Think Halo with magic.
I'll take it.
Now, I'll tell you what, this guy is racking up the ad revenue. I'll tell you what, right now, we are 3 ads into 10 minutes of content. This guy's give it up for June the King going crazy with ads. Woo!
That would have been the extent for Jared's hatred of this game, if not for the insulting action that was the announcement of a sequel.
By the way, everybody has their game, right? Corey's was Battletoads. Remember Corey and Screw Attack back in the day? That was her thing. Battletoads, right? You know, I have my Santana song, right? Everybody has their foil, and that's kind of the fun of it.
Two Worlds 2 was announced about 3 years since the first game's release. So in an effort to deter buyers and once again display his hatred on a grander scale, Jared, who actually created a YouTube channel under the name of DM Jared back in November of 2006 as a future host for the name tag series, repurposed it under the name ProJared, that is short for Professional Jared, as that's how he wanted to conduct his reviews. Fueled by hatred, ProJared uploaded a review for Two Worlds 1 on September 17, 2010.
Where do you get these freaking screenshots? This is fascinating. Fascinating stuff from old YouTube.
The unfortunate circumstance was that Two Worlds 2 was being delayed, an action that decreased the relevance to his Two Worlds 1 review. As for the review itself, it set a format of telling a story about trouble areas in the development process of the games or other warnings prior to release. Then the video transitions to the opening and the unfolding of frustrations caused by the game, often refocusing back to Jared, where he tell the joke in form of a criticism or the rare compliment.
The problem is that Gandohar doesn't know where the keys are. Luckily, he has a contact that does, and he points me in his direction.
They call him Ho.
This is still part of the Screw Attack stuff. I don't remember him doing any of these videos during Screw Attack, but I could be wrong. Maybe this is about the time where it was like, okay, it's time. Which I guess the timeline does line up. I don't remember when he got the heave ho, but we'll see.
Are you kidding me? His name is Ho? I didn't realize Gandohar was a pimp of male prostitutes, I guess, but his name is Ho? Even your main character doesn't believe it.
And the whereabouts of the last 3 parts are known to whom? I told you, Ho.
So I go to see Gandohar's bottom bitch, who is nearby the village of Windbreak.
A format not so unique to him, but really belonging to this genre of game reviewers in general. Something that did stand out a bit, that took on larger noticeability later, was the plastering of his face on the thumbnail that takes up the left third of it. But for now, its prior evolution of a picture of Jared disappointingly holding a game was the standard for his videos.
Yes.
These ProJared
YouTube has changed a
reviews that
lot.
were sparsely uploaded to his channel took on the form of a hobby, with his position at Screw Attack remaining as his priority.
really know if that's the case. I wouldn't say it was his priority, but we'll continue watching.
Fast forward to 2012, with the channel ProJared having a little over 100,000 total views and a few thousand subscribers, showed potential for growth but lacked any promise of success. The safe and almost necessary path was to remain at ScrewAttack as a presenter for gaming news.
I'll be very intrigued to see what comes of this. I'll be very intrigued to see what the next 8 minutes comes of here. Oh boy.
If it was not the perk of full creative control over a project, it may have been the pay that encouraged Jared to continue uploading. As Craig tells it, ScrewAttack for nearly 10 years and succeeding via rising view counts in the millions per month did not translate nearly as well as they do today in terms of revenue. Even Craig as CEO had difficulty earning even a living wage for much of his time there. It's arguable that an extremely successful channel can out earn the pay at ScrewAttack, but its wages bring up two problems in Jared's scenario. First is that if he left ScrewAttack, he'd be lacking necessary savings for the many unprofitable months while he developed his channel. Secondly was the high chance of failure. Earning money via YouTube is a two-sided coin based purely on performance. Pay fluctuates tremendously, and unless you are in the upper percentage of content creators, you will rarely have stability like you would earning under an employer, especially when running such an undeveloped channel such as Jared's that was full of random streams, let's plays, reviews, and skits.
So with that said, if anybody would like to head down to the comments section and super thanks, I'd greatly appreciate that. That'd be a really big way. And your bits and super chats and subscriptions over on Twitch are greatly appreciated.
The average viewer would not be certain what they would be subscribing to, but if not for this experimentation and casting a larger net of content, he would not have gotten his big break in late 2012. It was not his reviews, let's plays, or anything of the like that got him notoriety, but a sub 2-minute video titled, How to Make Slender Not Scary. As simple as this video of Jared telling jokes in the form of instructions was...
Another ad? Are you kidding me? My lord. Holy Jesus.
Tip number 5, turn on the lights. Oh, this ain't so bad.
Because of the game he was covering, it hit the YouTube algorithm just right. Within a month, his total views flew to over 1 million. His Slender video responsible for 3/4
And Slender was like massive at the time, right? 2012 or so. I mean, that's like hopping on the gravy train, you know? Remember Slender?
of it. A month after that, it was up from 700,000 to 1.7 million views. So in 2 months' time, because of this video, he went from 5k subs to 20,000. A much more promising launch point if he wanted to go solo. Though at the time...
Okay, I'd just like to point out that at this point, right now, June the King is positioning him as Jared going solo. And I'm going to point this out before we get to the 20-minute mark. Jared didn't decide to leave ScrewAttack. Jared was pushed out the door at ScrewAttack.
He preferred working at ScrewAttack, but it was now the only viable decision to make when he, in late 2012, was fired from ScrewAttack.
There you go.
The ScrewAttack audience learned about this on Jared's last appearance on the ScrewAttack news show Hard News.
Now this last story is going to be something of a surprise. Today is my last day at ScrewAttack.com. And I know this is sudden, and I apologize for not easing you into it. The reason why is that I've been doing some personal side projects for some time now, and recently they've been doing really, really well, and it's been getting me a lot of attention. And as such, I've been putting a lot more energy into them. And with that, Craig recognized that my goals and ambitions do not...
By the way, all this is just total saving face.
...not line up with the future of ScrewAttack, which led...
Listen to this last statement here.
That Craig recognized that my goals and ambitions do not line up with the future of ScrewAttack.
Let me translate that for you. Jared was incredibly selfish and nobody liked him in the office.
Which led him to this decision. And he's right. The plans I have with my own projects mean I can't give as much as I normally do to the company. But understand this. There is no hate. There is no animosity. There is no drama. It was...
That's true. He got booted.
A mutual agreement that it's time for me to move on.
Mutual in that he wasn't giving his best effort and it was time for him to go.
And I want to thank all the wonderful friends I've made working here and every single person who has ever shown me a tremendous amount of support. And I still need your support. If you want to continue to follow my antics, open up a second window right now in your browser. Go to youtube.com/DMJared.
Very nice, by the way, to allow him to plug where he's going and what he's doing. Extremely nice.
That's where you'll find everything that I'm doing right now. You can still follow me on Twitter, of course, @ProJared. And I actually have my own Facebook fan page that you can also like, facebook.com/pro.jared. And I may not be gone forever. I may still show up for Mario Party After Dark. Who knows? But
He didn't.
today is my last day. And I've said this hundreds of times.
The overdramatic,
at least, but
the overdramatic
today, it has more meaning
coat coming
than
off.
it has ever before. I'm Jared, and that was hard news. Thank you.
Commenters may lament Jared's departure from the channel, not realizing that this decision actually increased his online presence, with what seems to be an
Well, what do you think would happen, right?
attempt to upload multiple videos a week. As for Screw Attack, as Craig tells it, Jared always had an issue melding with his coworkers, and his timidness and how at times him publicly speaking ill of the company and his overall abrasiveness made him a less favorable employee to work with.
Jared, I liked him more when I didn't see him all the time. When he was around the office, everything started great. He had his little clique that he had. Him and he hung out with mostly like Lauren and Sean throughout the day, and they were kind of the news team. Screw Attack was doing news at the time, and that's where Jared started doing hard news. But he was a big introvert, and he just did not like being around there. And honestly, I don't think anybody would say they really enjoyed being around him during that time. He really separated himself from the team. He would go home and post on social media about things we would talk about in our meetings on a day-to-day basis, and talk about how he never wants to hear these words again, and blah blah blah. And
That really pissed me off. Like there was a social media platform. I don't remember what it was, but it was one of the early ones around that time. And he'd go and he'd post things like, "I never want to hear the word content or page views," or and that, like, I remember there being several posts, and I think, I don't know, it was Chad or somebody came up and was like, "Have you seen like what Jared's posting on social media?" I'm like, "No, why would I see that?" And he posted it. I didn't talk to him about it, initially, because it just kind of stuck in the back, because it was all just like, it really just made, if you knew what he was talking about, it made everyone look like shit, and that really bothered me.
I have guys on my team, the Screw Attack team, who are like, "Hey, have you seen these things that Jared's posting?" And it's like, it's one of those things where if anybody posts that stuff about your company online, you get fired for it, And Jared was really funny. Obviously, he's super talented, right? He's super talented. He has this weird like charisma to him that people gravitate to. But he's also a jerk, and I think he'll tell you he's a jerk. And that didn't really fit with kind of what we were doing. And eventually, it was just time for him to go. And so I fired him. And he was pissed about it. He didn't want to be. It's like at a certain point when you say all this stuff about the company you work for, the hammer's going to drop. But I fired him and offered him unemployment. He said he didn't want it. And that was legitimately the last time I ever spoke to him.
As harsh as these words may be.
Yep. And he did. He kept the whole thing. I'm glad that June kept the whole thing in there about it. And I regret nothing with what I just said.
There is little to no resentment from either party. Screw Attack will later go on to be purchased by Fullscreen, paired with Rooster Teeth, where Screw Attack was made a brand under Rooster Teeth. As the years progressed for the company, Craig tells a tale of how creative control was stripped away with the increasing difficulty of producing content in exchange for stability in the form of income.
All right, so Fullscreen acquired us, and then they acquired Rooster Teeth, and then Fullscreen paired us together, and they made Screw Attack a brand under Rooster Teeth. Full transparency, that was the worst 3 years of my life. Just professionally, I had gone from. There were a number of reasons why. Number one was you go from having total creative freedom to essentially having, I had to get like 7 signatures to get anything done at Rooster Teeth. Now, Rooster Teeth, they obviously have had tremendous success over their time, and they have a method of getting things done. There's a method to their madness, which has worked for them. But for us, we went in working with Rooster Teeth as kind of the unknown. They didn't know us, we didn't know them, and then we're a brand in their company. So the people who are making decisions for us, they don't know our voice and they don't know our audience, right? So how can people who don't know your voice, don't know your audience, be expected to make decisions for your voice and audience? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Craig would eventually leave, and the history of Screw Attack in the form of its earlier videos are now wiped from the internet, in replacement for its most popular series, Death Battle. But that is a story for another time. Veering back to Jared.
Okay. So that's where we're going to wrap it this time. But I will say this. If you would like to see, June told me this. He said if there's a reception, if people are warm to the idea of a Screw Attack retrospective or documentary done by June, go over to the video and post that you'd like to see that. Man, sure would be great to see a Screw Attack video done by June. Anyone else? Oh, there we go. I'm going to post that there. If you guys want to find it, you guys can go find it. Go find it. And I'm going to even start with the first thumbs up on there. There we go. So you guys go like that comment.